Hello everybody, it's Joe from JLW Games coming at you with another cool video back in Planet Coaster and Rustic City. So this is part 2 and we are still in the parking lot. Yeah, that's right. So what we're going to be doing today is actually building a little bit, or actually going to be working on the entrance of the park itself. So we're going to be working on the entrance area right where you'll be entering the park. So we don't get into the park just yet, but we are getting there very, very soon. So what I did a little bit off screen, I actually did a little bit more off screen where I actually built a parking lot itself. So it was pretty much I just copied and pasted it to the other side, and that was mainly what I did. And I think I added a couple more trees, but that was about it. So what I'm doing now is actually making like a drop off section for like trams and buses and stuff onto the entrance area, so that way if you're parked pretty far away that you can actually get a tram or bus that will take you straight to the entrance, you know, just like a lot of parks. So that's going to be the idea with this. It's just going to be a drop-off area where people can get dropped off from the tram or bus. I've even thought about putting in kind of a tracked ride that kind of looks like a tram or bus, maybe even use the monorail. I don't know, something that will work, and maybe hide the track or something somewhere along those lines. I think that would be kind of cool. That way it looks kind of functional in a way. That way guests aren't only just using the long walkway all the way to the entrance. So that's going to be kind of an interesting development. We'll see how that turns out. So I wanted this to be it's not going to be a very symmetrical entrance. It's going to be kind of a, again, this park is more of like a family-owned park, so it's not going to be this huge, Six Flags, Cedar Fair, Cedar Point, or Magic Mountain kind of park. It's going to be more of your, again, kind of like maybe Silver City, Dollywood, in a way, kind of like just in that kind of regards, in a little kind of that way. It's not going to resemble those parks at all, like that much, in any way. Again, it's going to have kind of like this rustic kind of theme to it, and kind of like old style kind of theming around the park. So that's going to be kind of what the idea is. So what I wanted to do here is I want to make sure everything and every aspect of this is as realistic as possible. I built this kind of like gate. This is going to be a wooden gate that's going to be shut during operating hours. So that way cars can't drive into the entrance itself, unless, they need to for like maintenance or whatever it may be. So that's why the gate's here, so they can, but not during operating hours, obviously, so no guests can drive into it. So I built this like nice little wooden gate, and I thought it'd be cool to have. I wish they had like smaller chains, so instead I just used the rope. So we're gonna use that as kind of like the thing to open and close. So I'm going to create these little like traffic stoppers or something at the walkway. I don't think it's big enough for a car to really fit through anyway, so it's worked out pretty good. So that works out just fine. I want to do a couple more adjustments to the drop-off area for the tram ride and stuff, to kind of like make some fencing around it to where it looks like kind of in a way where a car can't drive through here. So but I built this little covered section throughout here there's a couple of different building sections that's going to be going around there to give it kind of like a little cover area for when you get on and off the trams and stuff like that. So I was thinking about making some sort of queue kind of line area as well to try and get onto this, but we'll see how all that develops later on. So that's how that's going to turn out just for right now. Again, I didn't want to make the parking lot section huge, so huge to where, you're not going to have any space to put the park. So again, it's not going to be a huge park. So that's the advantage of being able to do that. So we're not going to have this ginormous park. It's going to be kind of a smaller park, but it's going to be highly detailed. And that's going to be my goal with the park, is that it's going to be a smaller park, but it's going to be very highly detailed. So we're only going to have, maybe a couple roller coasters, some thrill rides, and maybe even some theaters and stuff like that. So make it just a really, really neat little park. So it's going to be a nice little homey little park that's going to be really cool. So I think it's going to be a nice, beautiful detailed park, and that's my idea for it. You know, I don't want to make it too big because there's going to be so many details thrown into this park that it's going to be, you know, it's going to be small, but it's going to be a nice little park that the entire family is going to enjoy, and a lot of thrill seekers are going to have some nice rides in there as well. So there's going to be some really good rides in there at the same time. So a couple of coasters I was kind of thinking of is maybe, you know, a mine train of some sorts, and maybe even some other things as well, like, I don't know, maybe an RMC, possibly like a smaller RMC, possibly, or something like a ground-up RMC, ground-up wooden coaster, and maybe even, I don't know, maybe a B&M of some sorts as well. So kind of like a smaller B&M, floorless or inverted or something like that. Kind of nice. So now we get into making the entrance of the park, and this was kind of an interesting idea that I had. I wanted to make this kind of a very simplistic, it's not very large, rustic kind of entrance that is not going to be huge, and I still don't think I'm finished with it even after this episode, so I'm still going to work a little bit more onto it. I want to make sure, again, everything's highly detailed and you know, and still looking fairly simple in a way, if that makes sense, you know, because the rustic style is pretty simple. It's mostly like wooden walls and, you know, maybe some metal rustic kind of roofs and stuff like that, but I wanted to make it look very unique and something that you haven't seen much of. So a lot of different like wall covers here with the wooden planks and everything. I think that's a nice little touch of different kinds of looks for it, and I add a lot of different things, decorations and everything to make this entrance kind of, you know, kind of unique. So one being, you know, this part and section being kind of like a wooden kind of roof instead of the metal, and then the outside parts still be metal parts of the roof. That way it has a lot of different looks for it. That way it's not like it's the same thing. You're not going to see the same building throughout the entire park. I want them to all look, you know, slightly different, if that makes sense, you know, because I don't want everything to look like the same building. You want to make stuff look different. And now with the spooky pack now available, this is I recorded this before the spooky pack was available, so I recorded this the other day, so the spooky pack's not actually involved into this in any way, so there might be a couple things that we can use from the spooky pack that will make it nice. So there's some nice new wooden pieces from that pack that'll actually make it look really good. So I'm very excited to see what we can actually dream up and build within this park in here. So the one thing I'm kind of a little nervous about is actually always getting the entrance of the park correct, because I'm always bad at trying to figure out what I want to do with the entrance of the park. You know, do I want to make this big plaza, or do I want to just make it simple and just have this area that leads into everywhere, all the different sections of the parks? You know, it's always a difficult kind of thing to get started, like, because you're actually at the part of the park where you're like, I don't know how to start this, you know, kind of in that situation. So but we're gonna get it done properly, and I'm gonna do it in a way that will work greatly. So again, some nice path covers will make a nice little cozy entrance again. Again, I'm probably not finished with this building just yet, so probably next episode we'll probably polish it up a little bit more and add some more onto it. And you know, I just kept adding more and more details, my little small details, minor details to each and everything of the entrance. And again, it's a very small entrance, simplistic, and it's gonna be very, you know, inviting, and that's gonna be the idea. You know, a lot of different foliage and some flowers, baskets, and everything like that. The window boxes, just nice little touches for this entrance, and it's gonna look really cool and really exciting, really cool. And yeah, all the above pretty much. And I built some doors and windows there on the sides. That way, you know, it's kind of like a area for the inside of that building is going to be more for like employees only and stuff. That way they have everything they need inside those end parts of the building. That will give them some options to use for the entrance itself. It will look really, really good. And again, going with this series, there's going to be a lot of realistic stuff like backstage areas. And speaking of backstage areas, we're doing another one here for the kind of like parking lot spot. So this is going to have like a gate here. That way guests can't enter it. It's going to be leading up to the little pay boxes for the parking area. So it's going to look really, really neat. I like making these little gates and stuff. They look really cool, and they match it pretty nicely. So we're going to have to build something along this walkway that leads to the park that will keep guests from kind of wandering off into areas that we don't want them to wander off into. So that's going to be the idea, but kind of behind those. So, but anyways, there's going to be a lot of backstage areas, and that's going to be my goal with the park. Is there's you got the main areas, but there's also the backstage areas that you don't usually see a lot of in real life unless you're an employee. So. And there's going to be those areas that you never knew existed. That's the idea with it. So there's those areas that you never even knew existed in the park in the first place. So I love using these concrete textures. They look really good. Just using the video billboards, they look really nice. So I wanted these to look like kind of like a gate that can be opened on those wooden parts right there. And now we get into a new fencing area. This is going to be I decided to make a custom little fence here that will wrap around this entrance into the entrance area from the walkway. So you're going to have this walkway that leads into the entrance area for the park, and I want to make sure there's plenty of different fencing and different things for that in that matter. So this was a good idea to have. So anyways, I'm making every episode around 2 to 2.5 hours of footage for each episode. You'll notice that it's in between 15 to 20 minutes for each episode with the time lapse. I speed the video footage up 8 times, so it's a lot faster than what you're used to seeing a time lapse on my channel. So if everyone knows, I am a very slow builder, so maybe it's a good idea to have these time lapses sped up quite a bit, just that way we don't waste too much time. So I had an original idea for this building. This is going to be the ticket booth, so I was going to make it a little bit taller, but I didn't really care for the look of it, so I went with the one level again with this building. So again, we're going to come back and build this just a little bit more. I even wanted to make a little bit of a queue line section-ish for the tickets. That way, if they do get a little bit backed up, that there's a little section for guests to actually use. That way, if there is a little bit of a line, it's not going to go all the way crowd the entrance area of the park for it itself. So I wanted to make it a little fancy entrance for the ticket booth itself. So and then you have the little exit on the other side as well. So then you have, of course, I made a kind of like a floor here, or another ground pieces for it, and all that section as well. And this is going to be a custom billboard for the ticket booth that I'm going to make. I have not built it made the billboard just yet, so that's going to be something for that in the future. So again, nothing is going to be symmetrical about this entrance. We are going to so I made the building kind of like sideways for the entrance for this, and then the pathway was actually surprisingly pretty easily to build. So that was kind of an interesting thing there. So, and then yeah, we're going to be detailing this building as we go a little bit more. So that's how that's going to turn out. And then we're going to have, and then I also add some more foliage and stuff on the side of the building, and it looks really, really good. I'm actually very pleased with how it actually turned out. And again, there's a lot more of details that I want to add to these buildings, so they're not final just yet, if that makes sense. So there's going to be a lot of things being added on throughout the series, just to detail them just a little bit more. Again, I don't want them to look all the same, and I want them to kind of have differences on how they look a little bit. And yeah, so, and now we're getting into a little bit of the foliage and some trees and all that fun stuff, and some saving, of course. You always gotta remember to save your games, otherwise it could turn out kind of badly. So for the ticket booths, I just use information kiosks or booths. That always usually works out pretty nicely. for those. And these very rustic kind of theme, and I was getting a little overboard with some path covers as well. So that is kind of like the main parts that we get done with here. And there's just a little bit of kind of like filling in the gaps and stuff like that. And then I built my own custom lamppost that I'll probably be using a lot throughout the park as well. Because, of course, you want to make sure your park's lit up at night as well. And that's what we're getting into here, is actually creating like this little simple custom lamppost. I always use like the brackets for some of the buildings that actually work very well for the lampposts themselves, and just place a nice little lamp on either side of those. And then they were a little lopsided, and it got on my nerves, so I had to fix that, of course, afterwards. And I want to add some more details to this, but in the end, I kind of just went with the basic lamppost with no decorations or anything. I wanted to put like maybe some, flowers or something on it, but for the most part, it turns out just fine. And I like the little base that is used for it. So anyways, we got those lampposts down, and then of course I wanted to build like kind of like this kind of like sidewalk part that kind of just completes this spot right here. That wraps around from the pathway to the foliage itself. It looks really, really good, and it fits in quite nicely. So, and of course, nice little tree there for good measure. So I do a lot of just looking around, trying to figure out what I want to do, and wanted to add, and I ended up adding some more lights to this building in the end. So anyways, that's going to be about it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and make sure you comment, like, subscribe for more content like this, and make sure you have a great day and an even cooler tomorrow. Thanks so much, and I will catch you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.